Welcome to this AI for Science synthetic workshop in the semiconductor manufacturing. And I also want, especially I want to thank Dr. Sentilnath and Dr. Li helped to organize this very interesting workshop. So before that, I will spend a couple of minutes to briefly introduce about this AI for Science initiative, which is the under the NRF, and so this is actually the definition. What is AI for Science? And we have some argument, but eventually this our final version is that AI for Science will be, is defined as a general effort to utilize and extend the AI method for solving the scientific problem. So basically, it's a cross area of AI, science of AI, and also the basic science research. So they are also different from the AI for X or application of AI because we more focus on basic science. So why do we need AI for science? I think this is actually is not a question, because for many years the traditional paradigm for scientific discovery is based on experimental observation and analytical analysis. So, but with this very quickly explosion of the experimental data set now, so it's probably too big for the manual analysis. So one of the motivations is that the AI, the success, the reason is that AI they can have a very deep neural network, so they can adopt very big number of the parameters, so they can more accurately describe the data. Well, the statistical model contains too few parameters to describe the phenomenon. So here is one example, which for many people heard about that, is the AlphaFold, and that is developed by a DeepMind. So AlphaFold is a end-to-end neural network, transformer neural network. And so that's starting from an amino acids of protein sequence. And then the end is a three-dimensional structure. So there's a transformer neural network plus this structure module. Then they train based on the experimental structure data from the PDB library. And then this is this is a very amazing result. It's a blind test. So basically here, the red is the green is the predicted structure, and the blue is the experimental structure. You can see they're almost identical. So that is really a huge breakthrough in this field, because there's we are doing the protein structure prediction for many years. The field is doing that for more than 50 years, but there's some incremental progress. So this is happened about 4 years ago in 2020 in the CAT competition for the Olympic game. So it's a blind test. So this is a blind test result really tell us how AI can make a breakthrough to this well-defined biological problem. So because of the power of AI, and this is because I'm also working in the field for more than 10 years. So I summarize this Olympic game, highlighted the progress in last 10 years, because every case is 2 years. So 10 years ago, this is the best we can do based on physical approach. and we can only fold a small protein. And here, this is a protein length. This is a TM score. TM score higher than 0.5 means you are successful to fold the protein. So you can see the success rate is very low, it's about 10%. But so this is another technology. It's called co-evolution. So here is case 13 is the AI start to introduce into the field, and this is 2 years ago. Last case, you can see the success rate dramatically increasing from 10% to 90%. And this we are now can fold very big protein, almost all the protein using AI. So this is really is because I'm a work on this, I know how hard this problem is. So because of the power of this AI, so there is many of the initiatives established from all over the world for the AI for science. So here I just draw this, the highlight some of the important initiative. So we are in Singapore, we still have a question mark. And so that is what NRF is planning to do, is try to have a Singapore-based initiative on the AI for science. So that certainly is one of the major goals, is try to bring the computer scientists and for AI science. And so they can bring this AI expert and the top research scientists so that they can work on this, collaborative research field. And one of the goals is really to also, this is for this initiative, to try to select those of this promising field, which probably, come to the top of the in the global community. Also try to find the young investigator and make our own contribution to the basic science. So here is the overall architecture of NRF on the AI effort. So there's 3 domains. One is the foundational AI research. That is basically focused on the AI of science. And this is considered as a catalyst. And AI for science is here. So apply this AI technology to solve the scientific problem. And then this last this domain is try to apply, find a more important problem, which is AI for science can apply. So here are some of the examples from like, material science, biomedicine, and also many other different fields. So here, this is a step, which is a milestone, which we have on this AI for science. We have already have this scoping study and also AI for science workshop for this workshop survey. So we are here now in the thematic workshop. So, and one of the goals is try to have, identify the important problem in each of the field, which is including here is semiconductor manufacturing. And the next one will be, we will have the AI for Science and NGCI conference. So NGCI conference is basically a short name of the Global Turing Initiative Conference. So that has been there for more than 10 years. And we will integrate AI for science together with them. So we have identified a team of top experts in the world. So that is a very important event in July 23, 24. So we are here, and we already have several other workshops, and today we'll have the workshop of the AI for semiconductor manufacturing, and we'll have some more. But one of the things I want to bring your attention is this May 20th, there is an AI method for science workshop. So we will invite this real AI expert on the science of AI. They will listen to us and then try to find what are in their aspect or expertise. They can help us solve this basic science problem. So this is my last slide, which highlights the overall structure. So one of the very important things for today's work is that we want to discuss and finally get a 3 to 5 page of the white paper and to summarize what are the big problems in this field of semiconductor manufacturing, what is the challenge and the bottlenecks, or what is the big, idea and methodology or the transformative opportunity and outcome in this specifically in Singapore. So after this, we will, report this or summarize this white paper to the Science of AI workshop, and then we'll iteratively, get the feedback and refine this white paper. Then eventually we will work together, have a FRC study report. And then probably around the August, we will have call for proposal, and we'll ask you guys to, to get some concept papers instead of the white paper to get more creative or idea about, what we can do to solve this problem. So that is overall idea, and thank you for your attention.
Very good morning, everyone. First of all, thanks Professor Zhang for the very useful and insightful talk to talk about the AI for science. So let's kickstart our workshop AI for semiconductor. First of all, welcome you to join the AI for semiconductor workshop. I think this is a very interesting and exciting workshop. First of all, I think we received a very positive feedback, and a lot of people registered this workshop. I think there are 180 people registered this workshop. Unfortunately, because of the this limited capacity of the city, we can only invite 50 plus people to join this workshop. I think we actually go through the SEMI, which is a Semiconductor Society, to invite a lot of participants from industry. I think around 30 people from industry and maybe 30 academics, researchers, and join this workshop. Make it a mix of the academic and also the industry. I think this is a very good opportunity. So today's program consists of 2 parts. The first part, we will have the presentation from the very well established researchers, professors, and industry, including Prof. Chen will give an invited talk. Second part is more like a brainstorming session. So we have 3 topics identified, and we will divide the people into the 3 different groups to focus on discuss this specific topic, to brainstorm, explore collaboration, to think about the new idea for the AI for semiconductor. What are the problem statements that the AI and also the fundamental research can be used to address this problem? Okay. Without further ado, let's invite Prof. Yu. Yeah. Very overview of the semiconductor industry. Share his deep knowledge, expertise, and some of the challenger problems. And most importantly, I think we have this NISTIC, which is able to share the data, validate our AI solution. I think it is a very good opportunity. Today I would like to talk a little bit on this AI for semiconductor, share some of our experience, including this DOE and also the failure analysis. So I think the DOE is quite important in semiconductor and other area. For example, we have a limited data. Here in the input space, if we have a useful machine learning model, we can predict what are the optimal value for your performance and so on. It will be very useful if you have such kind of a forward machine learning model, which you can use a different combination of your input parameter without perform expensive experiment to predict what is your value. Okay, very useful for process engineer. What makes it even more fascinating is we do the inverse machine learning, right? So given some of the optimal parameter of the desired property, you try to find your input parameter. So this will be quite important. How do you integrate the physics knowledge and handle the limited training data problem? I think this is extremely important. And our team actually worked on this in the past years, try to develop some of the deep learning solution, which is able to reduce the DOE time 5 to 15 times across different industries like semiconductor, material, circuit design, and the painting industry. For example, you want your paint with a certain property, how do you find the optimal recipe to produce this? I think this is a very exciting area. I think this just gave an example. In the past, we have this circuit specification. We can use a simulator or EDA tools to predict or find this circuit performance. Then we have a designer involved to do the iterative process. Now with AI, like a neural network segregate, okay? Then we try to reduce the prediction, let's say forward learning model to predict the performance. But as a Prof you has mentioned, you have a limited data, you just have a few training data, training point. But in this case, we do have some of the capability, let's say, learning with less data, learning with limited data. How do you train a model with a limited data? I think this is extremely important. Of course, we can do the inverse learning to try to reduce this iteration. So human in the loop, but the human and the AI work together. So if you think about this, I think some of the problem Prof you has already mentioned. I think our challenge is data availability and the quality. I think quality also is very, very important because you do such kind of DOE. Your original data point could be very low quality of data because it could from the different sources. Okay, the quality could be challenging, the bad quality, low quality. At the same time, I think for AI model, we also have a lot of challenges because your this experimental condition can change. Your AI model need to adapt. Okay, so how do we handle such kind of cases when we have a limited training data and the data distribution keep changing? I think this is extremely challenging. Of course, we can explore the future research. Some go through this AI for science program, like integrate the domain knowledge, the human beings, domain expert, the simulation, the physics, human AI collaboration. I think is extremely important as a future research topic. And how do we make the AI model interpretable and explainable? Okay, important. And whether we can transfer the knowledge. Nowadays, I think this foundation model are also very important. If you have a foundation model, learn from some high quality data, but you want to fine tune to some of the downstream tasks to do such kind of things, I think will be critical. I think this definitely is a very important topic for AI, as well as work with the semiconductor to build a foundation model and fine tuning for this. And of course, all the company, you have your confidential data. How do we make the AI secure and so on to handle these cases? Okay, so this is basically I'm thinking about from this line, how do we do this in the future? For failure analysis, I think we have worked with some of our partner to do this, and for example, to work on HBM. Here, the important thing is we are doing the packaging. We try to use a 3D scanner to scan the 3D this image. Then we do the detect the bump, then to do the segmentation, then 3D reconstruction, then we can do the metrology. I think this is important, but also have an extremely challenging problem because labeling, the machine learning, you need to label the bump, okay, and so on. So this is extremely time consuming to do the label. How do we build an AI model in such kind of cases? So I think here we explore some of the methodology, for example, to use some active learning methods to only select some of the important points to do label instead of blindly label some of the points. Okay, so we have a limited training data, but from the important data point can benefit AI model more. So even you have a less data, you can still achieve the good result. I think this is what we want to achieve. Just now it's in 2D, but we also recently to explore more like a 3D, which is able to identify this structure in 3D space, which can achieve some promising result aligned with the ground truth. And then eventually you can perform measurement directly in a 3D volumetric data or space. So we are building this 3D metrology toolbox for such kind of purpose. And also for object detection, how do you reduce a false positive? Let's say this bump. Some of the existing approach, you have a false positive and also a false negative or escape. So the technology need to handle such kind of situation. Okay, I think that we are building some of the capability together with the university, HL, and for example, the chip lead program or 3D deep learning program. I think we are exploring collaboration between the university, A-Star Research Institute and industry together to bring this forward. Okay. Yeah, I think this just we have recently have a lot of publication, and some of them being the best paper award in AI for semiconductor area. And we would like to collaborate more with industry partner, A-Star Research Institute, IHL, together to create the impact. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Xiaoli. So I'm privileged to introduce the next speaker, Professor Raghavan, who holds the position of Deputy President for Academic Affairs and Provost at NUS. He is also the Director of the NRF Shine and the A-Star SynTech NUS Joint Lab. He has vast knowledge in the semiconductor industry, as well as he is more into translation aspect, one of the best resource we can find in Singapore. And I am very much honored to have a collaboration with him quite some time now. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
So 15 minutes. Okay. So just want to talk about the work that we've been doing for with AMD in Singapore on data analysis. The book was originally funded by this AMDM project funded provided by A-Star. So specifically to talk about is physics-guided AI defect isolation in microelectronics. So just to explain a little bit why this work is kind of important. So I think for folks who are in academia may not be fully aware of how the ecosystem for new product introduction happens. So typically you have a fabless, when for advanced technology development works closely with a foundry, and then obviously the chip gets shipped to a chip packaging and testing facility. Okay, so there are quite a lot of interactions in the first stage between the fabless and the foundry. And where it happens is really the technology that's first developed, failure tested, use enhanced, and that. Now, subsequently, there's also a second stage yield enhancement effort that happens between the fabless and the chip packaging facility. Right? So why is this important? Is because this is part of the new product introduction workflow. And where failure analysis come in, it comes in those two loops in the advanced product development. So, so part of the question that was asked is what's the value capture in Singapore, right? I mean, that was the question asked. So I took this slide, and really it's the value capture is in chip testing and assembly R&D. So yeah, I'm not going to go into all the details here, but if you look at this by Straits Time, and you look at areas where US is not playing a role. US is, if you look at the bar chart there, those gray spaces are the ones China and non-US based influence and dominance in the area. You see that assembly and testing, there's a big chunk that happens in China. Now, with the geopolitics that's happening, actually it becomes more and more sensitive to have assembly and testing done in China for advancement. So the argument here is for Singapore to come in and make use of the opportunity. Okay, no offense to folks from China here, but this is business. So that is an opportunity, and another area will be R&D and IC design. So in MPI point of view, from new market opportunity point of view, I think there's quite a lot of opportunity when it comes to assembly and testing in this area. Okay, so the third slide is really about AMD, which is one of our partners we've been working with for a couple of years now. So AMD moved their failure analysis center of excellence to Singapore. It used to be part in Austin, Texas, part here, but they have moved it completely here. And the reason for that is because this is now a hub for new product introduction. And all the majority of the chips flow to Singapore as a distribution center. So there's actually a lot of motivation to localize testing and failure analysis here in Singapore, right? So that's sort of the capture. So and that's, I'm not going to go through details here, but that's why failure analysis and testing becomes a major opportunity for Singapore. So let's talk about technical aspects of it, right? So if you look at failure analysis, it's a very tricky problem because you're looking at something that's happened in a phone or a device, and you have to go all the way back down to a device and atomic level potentially to find the defects, depending where the defects are. So we're talking about 100 million times the resolution of change. And this needs to happen in an order of months to figure out where the defect is, because that is the timeline when a new product is to be introduced. So when we were first working with AMD, the question was, can you speed up this process, and where can you speed up the process? So there are several issues with failure analysis. Obviously, that package testing, failure analysis down to the electrical level, and then roughly know where the defect is, because the defect failure analysis engineer needs to go down and then isolate the defect and identify what that is, and then subsequently communicate that back to both the design team as well as the foundry team. So it's actually a coordination of several efforts, right? And one of the biggest issues obviously is that the technology today is getting more and more complex. I'll get into that in a little bit. So in the original proposal to AMDM, the idea was from the circuit transistor down to the material defect, we're going to develop methodology to speed up 100 to 1,000 times. And one of the tools to use is machine learning to do that. So I'm not going to go through that. Okay, so the methods of obviously there are lots of methods in terms of machine learning. Use anything from deep learning based neural net, where pattern recognition, all the way down to some sort of decision tree based, right? So I'm not going to go into all that. So one of the first things that we've done is to look at how to use decision based machine learning to actually solve the problem, and that requires some understanding of symmetries within the device itself, the technology. I'm just going to go quickly. So we managed to develop a method which is based on using a digital twin. So one of the fundamental problems with defects in semiconductor is that it's a rare occurrence. It's a tail distribution problem. So you're not going to find a lot of data to come in and train your machine model. So you need a physics-guided model that actually generates the learning. So the physics-guided model we use is the TCAT. Obviously, we cross-calibrated with what's seen on hardware. And then we basically tie in the TCAT model together with a machine learning model so that the machine learning model understands what the TCAT is seeing. And the TCAT can respond to basically increasing resolutions where the defects could be. And third is that we also zone different parts of the device. There's some symmetry that allows us to roughly localize, because otherwise, what you have to do is that you have to discretize the device down to all the atomic level, and then every atom is a potential defect. There's no way you can solve that problem. It's intractable. So that's one of the techniques we developed. And we implemented based on this supervised way. We'll skip forward. So the next step that our group has been working on is to move above the device. Now we're moving into circuits, and then circuit failure. So the thing about microelectronics is it's very abstractized. So all the components belong to a circuit. All circuit belongs to a logic block. Every device has its own parts of devices. So how do you segment this in a segment? Because otherwise, you can find a defect at the atomic level, it affects the circuit level. So how do you translate that up? And that's done through abstractization. So we're working on that right now. And one way to do it is obviously to create a digital twin of in this case, an SRAM array. And we're currently working on this approach, which is based on a physics-guided Bayesian approach, where we understand that the defect distribution and defect responses has a certain signature according to a certain distribution, but we don't know what that distribution is. So we loop it through the models to basically inform and continuously teach the machine learning model. So we have done fairly sophisticated approaches based on local interconnect, which is a big problem in all the advanced technology today because the density as well as the topography issue. Okay, so I'm not going to go into all these technical details, but the next thing we'll be doing is we're building generative models right now using the latent space to predict some of the defects without actually having to understand all where the defects can be. And we're working towards also a atomic based model. So we're working across hierarchy, right? So we have a device, we move upwards into more complexity at the circuit level. We are now also descending below the device level to materials level. And so certain material defects will show up as circuit defects. So we are also using atomistic models to basically abstractize that so that it makes the problem tractable. That's what the team is working on. Okay, I'm just going to go forward and do some introduction. Okay, so with chips today, I think it's getting more complex. So this obviously, this is Jensen Huang media, right? So the new Blackwell chip, for instance, is 2 dies connected by a high-speed link with 8 HBM stacked with 13 chiplets. So this system is very complex. It's not just one chip, right? It's at least 13. And so now there's a major motivation to do defect detection in stacked chips because I think it was mentioned before HBN by a previous speaker that it is actually very difficult to isolate defects in these chips, especially if you need to do it in real time and online. And the reason why is because you want to detect the soft error fault, the error faults while it's running, and then correlate it back to it. That's what I think currently we are doing. And on top of that, the technology node that we're talking about, sub-5 nanometer, is highly complex. And so that's why we have a new project with A-Star, and Yao-King is currently driving this project, which is using magnetic tomography as a characterization tool in the loop with the AI to do this, and to do inverse modeling of the defect. So the stuff that we've learned previously using just the digital twin of the modeling, and then now we incorporated with actual characterization tools. And so this project has been started, and we'll look at specifically, again, working with AMD to look at 2.5D and 3D chips. So okay, that's it. Yeah.
Aaron, thank you for the introduction.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question? First, failure analysis, I think another aspect is after the analysis, then you want to find out the root cause of the failures. In your research, did you do the charge back, like how to charge the failures back to the previous processes? And during this process, did you encounter any challenges, and how did you overcome those challenges?
That's a simple answer to that one. Yeah, so we work very closely with AMD. AMD has a non-disclosure agreement with TSMC. So we cannot go into that loop. But the thing is, whatever we have found with AMD, it appears to be very, very useful. Because as I mentioned in the early, there are two loops, right? When AMD is developing its advanced technology with TSMC, there's a lot of feedback and there's a lot of potential interaction between design and process technology issue. So the FA information was fed back in that loop. I don't know, and I don't want to know what exactly they fed back, but the defects were found, and I cannot discuss those. Yeah. Good. All right.
Thank you, Professor. Okay. So our next speaker is Ms. Bernice, drives the semicon packaging capability development in product development engineering and device analysis lab at AMD. She has immense practical experience in, especially in the microelectronic packaging technology. Please, Bernice.
Thanks, Santil. Okay, I guess I can speak through my slides given the amount of time left. And I think the talk that I'll be talking about is more like a complaint session from industry, I feel. Because, I mean, it's great that there's a lot of work being developed in the AI space over the last, I think, couple of years. I would say it's been very active and it's fantastic, I think, because internally within a company, there's only so much resource in a manufacturing company that can be spent developing AI models. And to be honest, I think tapping on the higher learning institutes as well as the research institute, right? There's a lot more like brain power, I would think, in the machine learning space. And based on our domain knowledge, we can express our, our challenges that we face and how we want machine learning to help us. And then from there, leveraging, on the resources out there, we hope to develop the solutions together. So my talk today is about the application of machine learning in semiconductor failure analysis. So I'll briefly talk about the silicon transistor aspects as well as some of the advanced packaging challenges we face. Okay, so this is just a brief introduction. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the failure analysis process, but we'll just talk a little bit more about what are the steps involved, and then identify where machine learning has been starting to help us a little bit more. Talk a little bit more about some of the applications we have started using in some of the techniques, and then we will end up with a conclusion. So I think this part, Icha, Prof. Aaron have all spoken a bit about it already throughout the day in terms of, transistor scaling is still happening. It's not slowing down, but at the same time with transistor scaling, we're getting more and more complex packages because transistor scaling is just too expensive to pursue. We just want function and performance enhancements. So over here, this is, I guess, a very nice slide from iMac that was shared. And it's showing all the complexities that you see in all the different packages which are being used in actual products now to help with the scaling, doing multi-die chip solutions to achieve the more and more right now. So the question now is, how does FA play a part in all this development? So literally, I think FA or failure analysis actually comes into every aspect. You saw the chart that Isha shared from the R&D all the way to high volume manufacturing. So actually, FA is applied at every single stage iteratively, just to a different extent of the volume of FA that needs to be done. And over here, you can see the FA flow. It starts from electrical fault isolation. So that we start to identify out of billions of transistors and out of tens of thousands of interconnects, right? Where should I focus on? It's like a very big island. Where in the map should I be starting to dig? And then after that, you want to do some imaging like X-ray, imaging, right, and optical microscopy, so that you can start to find whether you see signs of any anomalies. And then once you see signs of it, right, then you start to think, how am I going to actually expose the defect to root cause analysis to see, is it a process issue, or is it the electrical testing issue? And then you do the root cause determination. So how does machine learning aid in the FA? So at the second level, right, as you know, the transistors are getting smaller and smaller, the architectures are getting more and more complex. And looking for defects is like looking at the needle in a haystack. And more we are seeing a lot of non-visual defects. And this complicates the way we do sample prep in order to expose the defect. And with the higher densities, right, we need more time to and the stacking as well. You need more time to actually do the sample prep and do it well so that you can actually continue to do further isolation to actually get to the failing transistor. At package level, I think is also not getting any simpler. Now you're seeing more and more die stacks. Like HBM, we have 12 stacks. You get to 16 eventually, I guess, maybe 24. Who knows, right? And with the die stacking, you can see like this sort of hybrid bonds over here. These are very small, 1 to 3 microns of the size. And the worst part is there's no direct electrical connection to these for you to test. These fail and are actually flagged out in functional tests. So again, how am I supposed to find the failing, hybrid bond in the TSV out of, I guess, tens of thousands of them? Also, the interconnects are getting smaller. They're getting so small that sometimes even in the NDT, non-destructive imaging realm, it's getting harder and harder for us to actually visualize the defects that have to become sub. So I think this is one of the solutions that was developed in-house by Nathan, who's sitting down the middle. So this was a technique that he came up by himself, machine learning, where he saw a problem when he was doing photon emission. So photon emission is actually a technique where you activate electrically transistors in the semiconductor silicon, and then when you excite them, there will be photons emitted at the transistor. And you can see all these hot spots popping up. So I think the problem is when you activate transistors, I mean, there's always a bunch of them that turn on. So which one is the hottest? Are there differences because there's thresholding issues? And generally, even in good devices, you get transistors turning on and emitting photons. So you need to know, which one's a real site and which one's a false site. And if you're not so experienced and you manually eyeball, maybe you get the wrong location, which means you have a toss not found. So one of the AI solutions that will come out was detecting hotspots. So meaning you need to be able to find them even if they are very weak. So he trained a model to highlight the top 5 hottest spots to help him to narrow down which are the possible areas which are actually defective. So that reduces the need for manual screening. And then the next part was, after identifying the hotspots, both the reject and the good, we're going to do a comparison to detect whether it's only happening, the hotspots are only in the good or only in the reject unit. So this way, then it helps him to get down to where is the real location the PFA team should be focusing on. So this is one application that was developed in-house. But not everything can be developed in-house because I think it took a lot of time here to pick up new knowledge. So another one of the challenges we're facing now, I think Dr. Xiaoli Li, I think you talked about the 3D X-ray imaging. So again, this is one of the more commonly used techniques now because in acoustic imaging, it's very hard to actually see 3D structures. Because then generally you're only seeing 2D in acoustic imaging. So 3D X-ray has become the go-to method for actually imaging interconnects. But again, as you know, for 3D X-ray, there's issues with the noise. If you scan too quickly, meaning exposure time is low, you don't give it enough time to for the X-rays to collect, the detector collect enough data, you get very blurred images. So over here you can see, even though you have a lot of projections, but the exposure time is low, your image quality is very bad. And if you have lesser projections but longer exposure time, it still doesn't work out because you don't have enough pieces of the puzzle to actually build the 3D structure. So ultimately, I mean, if you want the best image, you will end up spending a lot of time because you need a lot of projection and longer exposure time. But in FA, everybody's always chasing you. I need the results like yesterday. Very unfortunate. Anyway, of course, there are vendors who are developing their own AI solutions for their equipment. So, for example, this is a Zhining solution where they actually use machine learning to help to improve the image quality. So you can see over here, right? You have 1,400 projections of 1 second exposure, but the quality is almost as good as a 2,400 projection, 10-second exposure kind of image. So you can see there's a 7-fold improvement in the time. But then again, these are proprietary to their equipment. There are many equipment vendors out there, and you can't apply their proprietary method to other vendors. So there's still a need to develop, I guess, customized machine learning solutions. I mean, maybe the vendor solution is not the best. There might be something else better out there, but we won't know because we are dependent on the higher institutes to actually help to develop these together. I think the other key question is, sorry, this sounds really bad. A lot of the solutions are based on Kedar, which is NVIDIA based. I think as AMD and there's personal feedback that perhaps there should be more being done in the space of the AMD solution. So there should be a solution which is that is applicable to both the NVIDIA and the AMD chips. Because I guess it's always good to have a backup, right? Just you don't need to ransom because there's not enough NVIDIA chips.
Yes.
So back to this right now, we talk about acoustic imaging. So you can see, right, this is a good reference. But if I didn't highlight this circle over here, would you have been able to see this defect? Over here, so there's one very small defect over here. So acoustic images, right, even though I said it's difficult to use it, we can still use it. It's just that finding these defects are a lot more difficult as they're becoming more and more subtle, right? So if you're a very experienced engineer, you might pick this up. But also, as mentioned, I think Isha, you mentioned in your presentation about the junior engineers. I think they take a lot more time and they are a lot more error prone, and they might have missed this out, and this could have caused failure not to be found. So I think the problems that we talk about have been already said in the earlier talks in terms of scarcity of the data, defects. When in general, by the time you reach high volume manufacturing, you're looking at defects in the ppm kind of range. You won't go at the early part where you have many kinds of failures, right? So finding defective images is very tough. And if you do find them, it's like you find them like maybe spread out over different reliability weak points or even in the few returns. Again, the quality is the issue, right? How good is the image that you get to train the model? And then after that, if it's a solution that requires you to label the data, it needs time, very time consuming, and it requires experience as well to make the labeling. So again, this is another vendor-based solution where instead of using images, they use the acoustic waveform instead to label and to teach their model, because you can see in this acoustic imaging, right, each pixel is actually one waveform. So there's plenty of data to train on. So that's one of their solutions. But of course, not saying that maybe perhaps with the image, the image-based AI solutions, right, maybe it would be better for widespread other acoustic imaging vendors, right? Because this again is very vendor specific. You can't apply this to other brands of CSAM tools. So I think I'm going to wrap up soon. Other AI-based FA techniques, I think Prof Thean and Xiaoli also mentioned about TCAD. So I think this is some work that was done by Xiaoli with Prof Thean to use TCAD to actually do modeling, to teach the machine to detect the feedback transistors via locations. And then I think another area that has been of interest to the team also has been in terms of the SEM image detection of defects, where you do overlays and perhaps see whether you can see any defects in the top view. And maybe there's some denoising required, because generally when you get down to the nanometer range of imaging, there is a lot of noise. So I think to conclude, for us, technology is great, but with its size shrinking in transistors as well as interconnect sizes, right? We're actually being pushed to the limit for all the FA techniques. Defect inspection is very challenging, and right now we don't see there's a one-size-fits-all machine learning approach. So everything, depending on the technique, might need its own different model and training, and maybe even between products, because the product structures are very different. So actually, we're quite happy to see this program that's coming up, because we feel there's a lot of research potential and a lot of areas which perhaps there can be a lot of collaboration in the industry. So I think with that, I'd like to thank some of the members and the team that have contributed to this. And if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. You.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bernice. So our next speaker, who's the last speaker for this session, is Professor Nagarajan. He's an associate professor at SUTD. His research interests are reliability-based design, prognostic and health management of engineering. He also done a couple of good work in yield estimation in semiconductor. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Senthil. Thank you all. I think this talk resonates with what Prof. Yo earlier mentioned, that it's as an academic, it's very hard for us to get any yield data from industry to do any kind of sophisticated AI work. I was just fortunate to work with Silicon Labs as part of an industry postgraduate program funded by EDB with Mr. Wei Hua and Zhang. And it was I was just fortunate to be able to do a study on AI-based yield prediction on some IoT products using Silicon Labs technology. And it was a 4-year project where I never got to see the data at all. It was all normalized, but at least it was a good opportunity to see what the challenges are and in yield prediction. And I was just wanting to share some of those experiences with you here. All thanks to Silicon Labs for funding this research effort through a PhD program. So Zhang was my student who was part of this industrial effort. And Mr. Wei Hua Lin, who was here, was a mentor for the industry as well. So I just want to list out a few complexities that we have to be aware of in terms of yield prediction in the context of semiconductor manufacturing. So as Professor Yu as well mentioned, there are multiple stages of this whole fabrication process, which is an end-to-end process that doesn't happen in one single foundry. It goes through assembly testing at different locations. And you have wafer level testing, you have probe testing, you have final testing of the chip at different stages of its process. And it's hard to nail down the cause of yield loss happening at different stages. So it's not a simple input-output exercise where you have all the inputs and all the outputs to make sense of using a simple AI framework. There are multiple stages, and each stage has to be carefully calibrated and modeled, and the impact of one stage on the other stage also has to be accounted for. And yield losses and testing costs can account for 20 to 30% of the total production loss, which is why it is so important for us to be able to do it more accurately. And the most important challenge, as Professor Yu also mentioned, the data is available, but it is not big data. It is not neatly labeled data. There's a lot of missing data. There's a lot of categorical data. So the data is very difficult to make sense of unless it is pre-processed in the right way. And pre-processing itself requires domain experts to come into the picture as well. So these are all the challenges that have already been discussed in the past. So we have the complex manufacturing process, the long cycle time. You can't wait you can't wait 7 or 8 months down the road to identify the issue and then rerun the process and so on. So we need quick solutions, but we have multiple stages of testing, wafer acceptance testing, and then probe testing, and then final testing, and so on. So we've got to be able to do all of this yield prediction at the different stages as accurately as possible, so that we can address the issues early on and tweak the process accordingly. So that's the challenge over here. So I'm just listing out a few challenges that we face as part of the PhD project, as when we are working on some IoT products and trying to tweak the process to improve the yield. So as we all know, the data is very high dimensional data set. It can have easily like 100 to 200 wafer acceptance test parameters to be working with. And many of these data are categorical. It's the location where the test is done makes a big difference. Sometimes the protocol of testing you use makes a big difference. So not everything is numerical that you can easily make sense of and do an inverse design and find out the root cause of failure or root cause of yield loss, for example. So we got to carefully account for categorical data sets in the whole AI approach. And as we know, yield distributions are never, nicely distributed as we want it to be. So we have these lower tails which have to be very carefully dealt with. So you have an upper tail with a high yield data, but you have a lower tail with very few data points, which you have to make sense of. And when you have very few data points, the low yield distributions, you can't just use a deep learning network to just do the analysis, because you might be overlearning the information, which is not going to give you any productive outcomes if you do an inverse design, the overlearned network as well. So a lot of imbalance in the data sets, a lot of noise, process shifts that are hard to explain sometimes but have to be quantified. And as Professor Yo said, the signal to noise ratio isn't high enough for you to easily decode the noise from the signal. So these issues have to be accounted for as well. And then it's also important for us to note that the same fab equipment, the same process flow could be used for multiple different product lines, and not all the products go through the same sequence of processes. So you have some products sharing some processes and some products not sharing some processes. So you got to see the impact of these process yields on multiple different product lines in the same foundry. So these are all complications that we have to be aware of as well. And yeah, as I said, a lot of categorical variables which you also have to make sense of and see what, sometimes it will be these categorical variables that are causing your yield to be low. It's not the numerical aspects of it, but the categorical aspects of it, which also have to be made sense of in a proper way. And yeah, yield distributions are always multi-model. So you don't want to just throw out the blue and green from your fabrication, from your production lot, because you could always use the blue distribution dies for another application where you don't really need a 99% yield. You can use it for like home-based IoT solutions or something else. So the industry is looking at how to take advantage of multiple products with different yield distributions and see which yield classification can be used for which product line, which kind of application. So it's not that we just want to use the red and throw out the blue basically. So they just want to see how we can classify yield into multiple different subclasses and find out what application it would suit better. Because there are many products which are failure resilient, and you can, of course, use these blue distribution dies for those kind of applications. And it remains to be seen on how these can be taken advantage of as well. So we did a lot of yield classification as part of this research as well to see how we can bin the yields into different bins and see which bin could be suitable for which kind of application as well. And yeah, it is not really big data because as you see, you can have a DOE with 1,000 experiments, but you have 100 bad parameters, wafer acceptance parameters to work with. So 1,000 looks like a big number, but you have 100 input variables to make sense of. So it's not really big data in the context of semiconductor manufacturing. And we know that there are multiple objectives and constraints we have to work with as well. It's not just about improving yield, but also controlling the variance in the yield as well. We've got to account for the cost of testing and the production loss, foregone production losses, and shifts in the bad parameters and so on. So there are a lot of the cost function itself is more complicated than just the yield itself. So that's something we need to be aware of. We did try to do transfer learning as well as part of this exercise where we were using these are all like, I mean, it's not even 3D architectures or whatever, it's still planar devices, planar transistors and so on. But we just wanted to do an exercise to see if a 90 nanometer yield model could be applicable to a 40 nanometer technology, and it frankly did not yield good results. So it's not that easy to just do a transfer learning as we would do in other applications. And this is even more compounded by new architectures that we have in sub 10 nanometer technologies, which 3D architectures, heterogeneous integration, new packaging technologies, all of which make it very difficult to take advantage of past data from other technologies to be used for yield prediction and new technologies. So these challenges get more compounded with new advancements in semiconductor technology. So this was an example of an analysis of 90 and 45 nanometer technology for the same IoT product. You can see that the important features are completely different in these two sets of, I mean, not completely different, but there's a huge difference in the important features, which clearly shows that you can't just do transfer learning as you would do in other scenarios. There's a lot more thought process that needs to go into it. And as I said, the evolution of architectures makes it even more difficult for us to do any transfer learning in the context of yield prediction. So with these evolving architectures and chiplet technologies and so on, there's a lot more careful analysis needed on how to make sense of data from other technologies to make prediction of yield and future technologies. And so these challenges remain to be solved and have to be thought through more carefully. And this is the context of how yield improvement is looked at in the industry. It's not just about the design phase or front-end or back-end manufacturing, but you've got to look at yield at all these different phases of the whole process chain and see how yield can be improved across these different phases of its design. And these are just recent works in this field which we just tried to review as part of our efforts. But I just want to conclude by saying that there's a lot more to be looked into. The data in terms of yield prediction is more complicated than it would be in a traditional manufacturing process, say for additive manufacturing or other kinds of manufacturing technologies. I think semiconductor manufacturing has its own nuances and unique features which have to be accounted for. And a traditional yield-based prediction model might not directly be applicable over here. So we got to look into all those complexities that I talked about and see how we could. Of course, we still have to do this feedback process. We want to predict the yield and be able to feedback and see how the process could be improved in the future. So that inverse design is still part of our framework, which we have to work on. But even the forward modeling is not as easy as it could be in other scenarios. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about. So I'll end my talk here and be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Hi, Chen from NUS. I noticed your slide has design phase, and I think this morning not much has been mentioned about the design phase, but the focus, rightly so, has been on the manufacturing. So have you sort of come across use of AI in the design phase? And can you make some comments about that?
Yeah, I would say the design phase, I would say this is where most of the multi-physics digital twin efforts are going on, where you kind of want to understand what the bottlenecks of an existing design are, and you kind of use TCAD simulations or digital twin models to understand the bottlenecks of an existing design and try to work around it. But I don't. So I would say this is more of a digital twin effort than an effort where you can easily work the data. So I think it's a different perspective of how yield could be looked at, but again, it is very much reliant on digital twin-based approaches here. But we haven't done much of work on this yet. Yeah.
And then the next question, I guess, for the community is whether there's interest in using AI in the design phase instead of just the manufacturing phase. Maybe something that can be discussed later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Naga. So I think we can have the break now, and let us stick on to the time. So although we crossed some time, so we'll get back here at by 10:45. Only a short break now. Sorry for that. Sorry, we have to come back and we have to start planning the remaining sessions. So our next speaker is for this session. The first speaker is Professor Zhining. He's a Provost, Chair and Professor at NUS and Director of ARTIC at NUS. His research interest includes AI-guided electromagnetic and antenna engineering. Please, Professor.
This right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chen Zhining from the ECE department at US. Today, I think the topic is about the semiconductor, but I'm come from the RF and the EM devices, so mainly focus on the antenna design. Okay, so how to link this the topic with the semiconductor? I think because we are also working on the hardware design, so I try to share with you our experience in the hardware design, using the AI-based algorithm. I think also in the last presentation, the people also interested in the design. Design is because the semiconductor more focused on the modeling, characterization, the processing, the material, but finally we go for the design, the chip design. So here I try to try to share with you how the AI reshapes the RF and the EM devices technology. So this is very known. Usually we design the hardware from the specifications by the system. Then we work out some the initial design. Then we optimize this design. Then to meet the requirements. Yeah, so this is very conventional way to design antenna. But here is usually we all the design and the synthesize based on the prior knowledge. So usually we primarily including the existing the design and also the some models like the equivalent circuit. Okay, so based on this limited knowledge, usually the design also the limit. Okay, so the issue is if we limit to this prior knowledge, so usually we have the limited capability in the modeling the complex and actually larger problems. Okay, the second one is the limit available material, the limit available fabrication process, and also the limited degrees of the freedom in the design in terms of the performance achievable the functions and the knowledge. Okay, this is the limitation. How to solve this problem? Yeah, so I think the AI is the one the opportunity to bridge this challenge to the what we expect. For example, we try to use the AI. The modeling the complex non-linear, especially non-linear, actually like the problem discovery the new the material. Yeah, for example, including the metamaterial, okay, the artificial structure. Also improve the fabrication the process and increase the degrees of the degrees of the freedom in the design. To break we are going to break the performance, the ceiling of existing the technology. Okay, and also to create the new functions in the basic design. Also extract the new knowledge from the generated design. Yeah, because all the knowledge is from the existing the designs. Okay, if we can create more the designs, we have more opportunity to get new knowledge from this larger design the space. Okay, so also this the engineer is from the algorithm point of view. We also have some the challenges. For example, yeah. So far all the training is very expensive in terms of the time and the equipment. Okay. Another one is the cost for the deployment and the difficulty for the scalability and also the lack of the explanation ability. Okay, so sometimes the AI like the black box, we know the input and output, sometimes very difficult to explain what happened, especially for the generative the design. This is very challenging. But even now, nobody knows what happened for the LLM, okay, large language model. Nobody knows. Okay, I just watching some of the video. People try to explain why they can generate this the text is very difficult. Even you know the input and the output. So here I just show you the one example. So what we have done in the past 5 years. Okay, so we use this AI enabled the synthesizer to design the metal surface. Okay, so this one for our side, because many people talk about the AI, usually we categorize the application of AI in the at least 3 ways. Yeah, one is the modeling, second one is optimization, third one is the design. Usually we are more focused on, as a university, we have more focused on the third part. Okay, the first part and the third part. First part is modeling, how to model the very complicated and larger scale of the problems. The third one is the generative design. Okay, we are not more interested in the optimization. Okay, so here, yeah, traditionally, yeah, so we if we receive the desired the specifications, usually we think about we just search our the database. What we have, yeah, what we have had, okay. Then we search, then find someone then the close to the design specifications. Then we optimize, yeah. So this usually we go for the very simple design based on some pre-knowledge and also the equipment. For example, yeah, this is the metal cell. Yeah, metal cell is for the metal material, the metal surface design. So usually the people can design this the cell based on the equivalent circuit. Because for example, I need inductor, I need a capacitor, and how to link them together. Then I know, yeah. So this one is the this is the inductor, yeah, this is the one, because it's just one cell. With the couple to the another junction, the cell, they have the capacitor. So I need the L and I need the C, then I can work out this structure. So usually this structure is very simple, very easy to design, but also suffering the limit performance we can achieve. This is the price, yeah, for this simple design. But if we go for the generative the design, that means we go for the gain, yeah. So then we can use the neural network, yeah, to generate multiple design with very complicated the figures. So that means you can find for this one, we just get the design which can meet, yeah, almost meet our requirement. But if we go for the neural network, then we can generate multiple solutions which all can meet the requirement. So that means that provide much more the solution for us. But each one looks pattern different. They just meet the basic the specification. They also have the unique the features for the issue. So that means we really expand the design the space by expanding the parameters. Yeah, that means we increase the degrees of the freedom. Then we got the multiple the solutions. So this is very amazing because it's really beyond the human imagination. We never can think about the so complicated structure. Even we don't know why that can work. Okay, so this is so that means the AI can create something really beyond the human capability, even the imagination. Okay, so after this cell design, then we go for the device design. Then we use these cells to form the lens, yeah, for the antenna the design. Then conventionally we use the cell cross the cell with the different dimensions. Different dimensions, that means that can generate different performance. For example, for the lens design, we need phase shift the distribution with the different size. Then we got the different phase the shift. Then we based on the principle of the lens, then we can form this plan of the lens. Yeah. But so you can find the dimensions of these cells different. Okay, the achieve the phase distribution different. Okay, so then if you go for the gain the design, then we can achieve the very complicated design, much complicated than the conventional one. But the performance is increased a lot. For example, if based on conventional one, the lens antenna just achieved this gain. Yeah, this is the gain, the response, yeah, against the frequency. But if we use the gain enabled design, then you can find the gain, yeah, increase a lot. Increase a lot. Yeah. So this blue one is the gain of the AI enabled design. You can find the gain increase a lot. Also the bandwidth of the 1 dB, yeah, also the wide by the 50%. This is really the broken the ceiling of the performance of existing design. Okay. Second one is further this one we broken the performance the limit. Another one we try to integrate more functions into the one the design. For example, before we used this cell just for the phase shift, but if we go for the lens design, try to suppress the side lobe, we must control the phase shift and the amplitude distribution simultaneously. Before we have to use the two lenses. One is for the phase control, another one for the amplitude control. But in our design, we can integrate these two functions into one design. Then we use one design, we also can achieve the very nice design. Yeah, so that we suppress the side lobe. Yeah. Yeah. So by the 30 dB, that means 20 dB the improvement compared to the conventional one. So this is also the broken the ceiling of the performance. Okay, so this is just an example. Yeah. So another one is just before coming here. Yeah, yesterday I checked the website. I found this very good example from the chip design. Okay, so the chip design. So that show if the AI beat the expert, so that can get the performance increase, also the reduce the time, reduce the cost, also the performance enhance. So this very nice the news for us. Okay. Then I just share my opinion about the impact of the AI-enabled RF and EM technology on the manufacturing. So usually the device technology is the fundamentals of all the system. So this is the bridge between the semiconductor and the system. So this device the technology very important. Frankly speaking, as the professors from university, we should focus on this level, not the system level and two fundamentals. Okay, engineer, we are from engineer. Okay, so this I think the most important, the most challenging or the suitable the topic is about the modeling, optimization, and the design. Okay, so then we should have the more powerful the devices with multiple and the new functions through the new structures and the new knowledge. Where new knowledge is very important. Okay, so another one, the more complicated and the larger scale devices. Okay, so then the second one is about the manufacturing. Manufacturing try to enhance the automation and the optimization of the design and the production of the RF and the EM devices, and also improve the quality of control and the defect detection of the product. The RF and the EM devices. Another one is AI-driven analysis for the process optimization and the decision maker of production of the product. I think if I change these RF and the EM devices to the chips, so it's also a very good matching to the signal of this workshop. The last one is what we expect from AI for the manufacturing. So this is my opinion. So the AI is can application the task beyond the human capability. So second one is the performance of the task more effectively or the better than the human being. Third one is the AI will surpass the human imagination, innovating in the way unforeseen by the human being. So what I try to say, AI is very good and a very powerful tool, but what we expect from AI is very important. Don't like the AI to do something human being also can do. Okay, so then much more beyond human being. Second one, if the human being still can do, the AI must do with the very high efficiency. Okay, also the automatically, yes. So this is what we expect. So in short, so very important for us to define the problem first. Not all the problem is suitable for the AI. Okay, so this is our experience. So in the very beginning, most challenging part is how to define the suitable problem for the AI. Second one is to try to find the suitable algorithm. Because there are huge number of algorithms, there are types of algorithms. So we must choose the suitable one. The third one is we must show the advantage at the device level. Otherwise, we cannot say, okay, we just do something. It's not our goal. Our goal is to try to show the advantage of the application of AI. So this is my suggestion. So from research point of view, I think we must look at the general methodology of AI algorithm for the fundamental problem. So the second one is the development. We must look at the specific field, which we really can do something. So domain knowledge is the key factor. Okay, problem plus the key factor, then the plus the algorithm. Don't mix this one. Okay, so the very important one is the problem, then the domain knowledge, then plus algorithm. Because we are not a CS guy, we need the knowledge and the help from the CSI, but all the problem will be driven by the domain knowledge. This is our experience, okay? Sometimes the sales guys, wow, your algorithm is too low. Yeah, yes, but we solve the problem, okay? Yeah. Of course, we need a powerful algorithm. That will help us, okay? Enhance the, as the university, usually first time we try to finish the proof of concept first. Then let the research institute, I think research institute plays a very important role to translate our the idea to the industry. So yeah, so this is my idea. Another one is the manpower training. Yeah, this is very, very important. I think the first we need to train the lecturers. All the lecturers, if you understand the AI, also they have the experience in the research, they can integrate the knowledge and the idea into all the modules. Then we can reform all the EM, all the engineering course. Okay, then we must train the trainers first. Then we train the trainees. Okay, the junior engineer, the students, even the researchers. Then we have opportunity, to provide the qualified the manpower to the industry. Also, the industry has opportunity to get qualified student, for the training to the engineer. So from the education point of view, I think this is very, very important. Yeah, for the NRF, don't miss this part. Okay, very, very important. Okay, this is just for your information. I just found a very interesting and the keynote speech in the IEEE MTS. You know that this is the top, the flagship, the project conference in the microwave. So this one, they have almost 12 the keynote speeches. 3 of them, talk about the AI enabled the devices, the design, all the 3 of them, they are from the industry. So that means the industry is very, very interesting and willing to invest on this area in the future. So this is a very good news for us. So we try to, this is also very good opportunity for us to share our experience in each other with the industry and the research institute and the university. Okay, I finished my sharing. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chen. Our next speaker is joint speaker is Dr. Jason. Is the director for the Electronics and Photonics department at IHPC. He has extensive experience in commercializing silicon photonics. Along with him, Dr. Sridhar is director for the Engineering Mechanics department at IHPC. He is also the program manager for the Defect Science program administered by A-Star. Over to you.
Thank you. So in the next couple of minutes, I intend to share with you some of our work. And so what we do is, I think Yixiang, who's left already earlier, last month he actually presented in NUS where he shared that 80% of the electronics industry is formed by semiconductors, and of these, 6 of these pillars are actually listed here. So I just wanted to use these to create a snapshot of what are the areas that we are working on. Heterogeneous integration, the next speaker will talk about it as well. Some millimeter wave, we've seen quite a number of colleagues present on this. So these are some of the things that we do, and advanced photonics, which is a topic that's very close to my heart. Now, usually when we go through, this is the abbreviated design flow process. You can see the IC design to fab to testing. But usually when we have design trade-offs, and in particular, we would like to have a first round success, first try and successful. We don't want to have second round. So what do we do to address this? We aim to do this with our design partners usually to have a physics guided AI modeling and simulation. We call it AIMS. for microelectronics. So we work very closely with our colleagues from, say, IME and INRI, and sometimes, hopefully, we can also work together with I2R and also with industry and the universities. So this is what we have done thus far for some of the physics-informed neural networks. This is actually a mode solving for optical devices. Now, in terms of waveguiding, we need it to be very capable of calculating very accurately and very precisely the mode index that can be supported by the waveguides. So what we have is we do a lot of partial differential equations, and using physics-informed neural networks, we can actually obtain very similar solutions from finite element type of modeling to finite difference time domain. So this gives us a lot of confidence to embark on this work. Now, inverse design type of GAN networks have been mentioned previously, and also in the area of metasurfaces, terahertz in particular. The previous speaker spoke about this. This is actually very important. How do we calculate very fast, iteratively, in terms of generating this? So this is a programmatic funding type by A-star, where we look at terahertz metasurfaces, IRS, intelligent reflective surfaces. Now, in the area of millimeter wave, we actually have some of the work that has generated passive device layout from a given input. So, for example, we have a particular input that we like to achieve. How do we actually go through the components and then generate something that can mimic what we require? So this is something that we have done, and also in the area of impedance network. Now, one of the things that we find that is very pertinent and required is how do we use different kinds of methodologies to approach the problem. So deep reinforcement learning is one area that we find to be very useful for us, where we actually generate patch designs for the antennas. I'm going a little bit fast because of the interest of time. And today you get 10 minutes for the price of 2 instead of 10 minutes for the price of 1. So I have to go a bit faster. But I'm definitely happy to answer and address any questions you might have after this. Okay, so in the area of photonics, this is very important. We have come across multiple discussion points where we need very fast computation, but we do not have a lot of measurement data. In these kind of scenarios, we need to have very fast computation and accurate at the same time. So this is what we have done for the area of photonics, where we come up with critical design parameters for various devices that are conforming to fabrication restrictions. This is a very, very important issue, because what you can make, what you cannot make is determined at the on-site ready. So the expert data will help guide us in our design. But in terms of the design computation, we need a lot of time. If let's say I want to use the commercially available codes, I'm talking about days, but using this work, our own codes are looking at seconds to compute for a similar solution. Okay, this is actually an inverse design for metasurfaces. Basically, is what I addressed earlier on. How do we make from a given output using neural networks to design a particular output that can allow us to generate that kind of input? Okay, some talks about this earlier already, the complex system. So here we need to have very effective modeling of the complex sizes. Signal integrity and power integrity are pertinent for us to be able to guide, because especially when you scale up to a lot of port counts or ICs, these kind of issues will come in. And along with this body of work, imagine heterogeneously integrating them with circuits that has photons. This will actually increase the complexity and hence the richness of the challenge. And the ability to address these two is something that is very exciting for us. So what we have done here are actually work in the circular photonics and by extension flat optics as well. And how do we put them together? Yi actually mentioned at the start that this is actually part of the NISTIC program. So we're very happy to talk to interested colleagues as well in this area. Now, what is our vision then for microelectronics scientific discovery? What we hope to do is to develop, and I'm trying my best to summarize what has been presented or since the morning till now is to create a foundation model of expert data of semiconductor physics. Because when we are able to do this, right, we encapsulate the optimization algorithms, the processing specifics, materials, material parameters, and i.e. the domain expertise and the fabrication constraints, use that as a lever. So that when we move on to curate this physics knowledge for microelectronics domain, we are then able to guide using physics-based AI, aided by hybrid compute, so it could be CPU or GPUs or parallel CEM, to create new designs that can address advanced photonics, millimeter wave, and also heterogeneous integration. This actually ties back to what we have shared earlier on at the start of the presentation about the 6 key topic areas under microelectronics. So these are the 3 that we are looking at. Of course, we are happy to share and discuss more if there are areas that you feel that are relevant. Now, in terms of the challenges, I look at it as opportunities. I think there's a lot of proprietary data that is not to be shared. So how do we create that? And that has been addressed. We do a lot of simulation. So what we then do is using the modeled data to plug the gap in terms of availability of data. We need to have very fast, very precise conversation. And that's what we're trying to do here. And expert in the loop is actually another elegant way to say that we need to have expert guided data inside here so that it's curated. And then this would, I think, Xiaoli's point, physics guided AI for design of experiments, not just for design, but for processing. This would be very helpful for us. And all in, right, I think the acceleration of the prototyping is very critical. With this, I pass on to Sridhar. Sridhar wanted 4 minutes.
3 minutes.
But thank you, man.
Okay, so let's see. So one of the key points, I think this came in from one of the NSERC slides that was presented a couple of days ago. And the point that they make is to have the transformative potential for science with pervasive AI. A lot of it is going to depend upon rapid capability for integration of AI with HPC simulations, especially when data scarcity becomes, as data scarcity is there and data is expensive. And of course, there is also building frameworks and approaches for optimization and uncertainty quantification and sharing. And one of the key pillars around which this is driven is looking at development of these extreme scale surrogate models. With this, so my talk for the next 2 minutes is talking about examples of how we develop these surrogate models to address different problems in semiconductor design and in manufacturing. Okay, so okay, so the first work that we're looking at is accelerating chiplet package with code design. So one of the things that, of course, sorry. Yeah, so the system package co-optimization tools and methodologies that needs to be developed to enable optimal choice of the physical package configuration, especially when you're going to a chiplet configuration, which has got a deep level of complexity when you take into account the electrical, mechanical, thermal interactions. Right? So current approach is purely sequential, where you have a pre-identified package, and then you do this design in an iterative way. So what we are proposing now in a new funded program, funded grant from MTC Programmatic, is to develop a fast iterative solver, where the architecture is converted into chiplet placements, and then use a multi-agent reinforcement learning algorithm, which is powered by this fast electrical, thermal, mechanical solvers driven by multiphysics. And this is essentially what is being done as part of the quad package by the colleagues at IHPC. My team is trying to develop AI-assisted multiphysics estimators, where you can very quickly compute things like effective thermal resistance, warpage, and impedance mismatch, given the configuration of the different chiplets and given the architecture. So, and the way we want to do that is to break this up into, we have thought this in detail, but I think this may not be the right audience to go through it in detail. But nevertheless, we want to build up the global model and identify what are the local RVE with individual slices of the chiplets, and have all that information transferred back and forth between the local model and the global model. Essentially, for people in the computational material science community, there's nothing but multi-scaling of different forms, right? And so we are using these multi-scale techniques to essentially extract the effective properties in a very quick way. And an example of this, we just started doing this for a thermal problem where essentially a die with RDL lines, we break it up into patches, and then we assemble the patches into a fabric together and calculate what the effective properties are. And so we can get things like, we can get speed up of something like 1000x compared to commercial FEM solvers. This, of course, is insufficient to address the full chiplet problem, but we are on the right track. In other words, trying to determine how to speed computations up compared to these rigorous multiphysics solvers. It's essentially, with very little loss in accuracy, we can get the same amount of values. Okay. Another example is from the semiconductor industry. This is again driven by industry partners, where we are looking at electrostatic chucking. Electrostatic chucking is a process where the electrostatic chuck tries to flatten the wafer and follow subsequent process steps, right? So we worked out the physics of the chucking process, and I don't want to belabor that point too much, but suffice it to say, even though we have the mechanics worked out, now there is a very detailed design analysis optimization problem that needs to be addressed. And how do we break the chuck up into multiple zones with different voltages in order to get the least amount of force that gets transmitted to the chuck? And so it's a very complex multi-design optimization problem where we want to understand what are the minimum wafer thickness we can get, and what are the minimal force and voltage requirements, and how do we go about breaking the chuck configuration. And so this, of course, is going to depend upon having this physics-based AI model, physics-based AI surrogate model that is developed. And we are well in our way doing this, and this is direct work that is directly ongoing with the industry partner. The last example that I choose is for a problem in semiconductor manufacturing, again in the case of chemical mechanical polishing. In the case of chemical mechanical polishing, you want the conditioner pad that to be having a certain amount of smoothness. In other words, the roughness has to be uniform. And so the question is, when you do the pad conditioning of the conditioner, what are the algorithm that we choose in order to do that? So of course, in this particular case, we work out the physics in a great level of detail and work out the kinematics, and then develop the surrogate model. And sorry, all of these. Oops. So okay, so can I just go back to the last slide? Sorry. Next one, 14, 15, 16, 17, maybe 16, yes. Okay, so we work out what the conditioning pad is, and then of course with this algorithm essentially enable our industry partner to determine what the conditioning pad algorithm has to be. The last slide essentially says, okay, there are lots of areas in the case of semiconductor technology, semiconductor manufacturing that will benefit from our application of AI-based modeling and simulation. And of course, the picture on the right identifies some of these things that we have taken a crack at. Some of them are directed grants, but most of them, many more are direct industry partnerships working with the semiconductor industry addressing these topics. Okay, so with that, I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you. Question for Jason and me? No? None? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jason and Dr. Sridhar. So I think, okay, is there Mohammed? So I think there's I'll go ahead with my last presentation. After this, Kedar wants to share any of his thoughts, can come forward. Okay, so I think so let me introduce myself. I'm Senthil. I'm working in the HR. We mainly focus on AI applied on various domains. Okay, so along with my team here, so I'll also lead the Autonomous Scientific Discovery Group. Okay, so and this is my overall outline of my talk. So to brief out what is the significance of some of the area of microscopy and how it can be useful in AI in the overcoming some of the challenges and also the future direction. Okay, so as you all know the Moore's law, so we have every year number of transistor in an IC is nothing but it is trying to go down. Okay, so this is how it varied the years. And same thing, there is one more on AI for Moore's law. In this case, every year size of increases by 10x. As you all know, it's because of the GPT popularity and other, but only the other side is the lot of computational resource. The model size is the number of parameters utilized is also increasing with the exponential 10x speed. Okay, so this is most of the microscopy. I think we already touched by previous speakers and all. So I don't want to go through some of them, which is already been mentioned. Let me touch the one which was not much emphasized. I'll be showing more onto the magnetic field microscopy. So in magnetic field microscopy, one interesting what the team is working is we have when current is passed through a sample, so we try to find out what changes in resistance induced by local magnetic field are detected. So it uses, there are many microscopy which is available now, like the GMR is the initial setup, and then SQUID and QDM, some of the popular magnetic imaging in, especially in the semiconductor industry. So coming to the fundamentals, why this is interesting in case of physics laws and principles, it mainly we can relate this magnetic field imaging in some of the basics fundamentals from Ampere's law, Reshapes law, and Gauss law. So here, if you see nothing but the imaging aspect uses in this way is nothing right hand thumb rule. The current flows in the upward, so the magnetic field forms is the clockwise. The same thing, the current is in the downward. The anti-clockwise is the magnetic field. So all this law is trying to relate the magnetic field with the current. So that's what it is, the basics which is trying to extract. So we are working on this, how this can be useful in adapting in the AI tools. There's an ongoing research project with some of the industries and universities. Okay, so some of the challenges what we encounter in this microscopy is as you all know, electron beam is one of the challenges induced because of a serious problem for the microscopy. Due to the contamination, spatial resolution can deteriorate and reduces the reproducible part of the some extent is challenging for the quantitative measurement, and also the scanning area. So generally we do the entire scanning of the sample. Sometimes we no need to spend too much time on it. So that whole specimen area can be avoided. So there is some way to how to adopt some intelligent way to bring in. And also the image quality, as most of the sensor we are using is which I want to stress is in the noise aspect. So which is one of the concern. So also the resolution of the image with the positioning of the sensor. If you go far away, the imaging sample it may be slightly lower in the visibility. So these are some of the challenges, the positioning to how we acquire and process the data. And that's where we need some an intelligent scanning technique, which can be adopted to overcome some of the challenges. So now, how AI can play a role. So this is some of our the team worked in the past, bringing some of the approaches, especially like as you all know the generative techniques. So this we have adopted to make it more realistic, surrogate physical simulators, as well as okay, so this is one some of the approaches which we explored in the past. Mainly on the inverse design, we use generative technique, and also for oversampling. This is quite important, also challenging in industry setup. Like we have healthy data samples higher than the defect. So how to balance it using generative model, using generative oversampling is one. And also the other challenge is most of us we discuss on the data related issues. We may happen to be with less data. One way is how we can augment it well. And also the class distribution may change. Say for one sensor, I mentioned that maybe at different positioning or different multi-model distribution. So how we can adopt for the same class defects, say with different sensors. That's why the domain generalization also plays an important role in here. And also the online mode. So we always use the sample processing, the batch processing and try to use offline. So how it can be adopted online. So some of the aspects which we try to address in past, some of the programmatic A-star, programmatic as well as IFPP projects, jointly with the NUS, and also some of the industry partners we are working on. So this is one of the things which the previous I want to brief out all these things. So the inverse generating model, which has to mimic something like realistic surrogate physical simulation. So this is expensive. How this can be replaced with the generating model? That's the idea. So this is one work we have done. Also on the generative oversampling, say you, as I mentioned, you have a imbalance. So the defect with defect and without defects. So there may be a more imbalance. How can we use the generative models to balance it by oversampling it? That's the idea. So we are also applied on the semiconductor manufacturing process, which is data available. So some of our work outcomes. And also this is like the one which I want to highlight, the domain generalization. You may not get the data very clean and there can be some noisy setup. So how we can still classify the changes which is being encountered from, suppose your model is trained with this, it has to adapt with the below ones. So can it be able to adopt? That's the also equally challenge. And this is one of the work which we have also filed IP. And there is online learning, which I mentioned that how the network can adopt. This is one interesting techniques we are adopting in especially in the semiconductor failure analysis. With different defect, the distribution will change. How the model can evolve, the architecture will change. We don't fix the architecture, it starts from zero, the hidden layers. So as the data keeps coming, we try to adapt the architecture accordingly. So this is one of the work we applied. Okay, so moving forward, what are the future direction which can benefit the Singapore? Basically, that's why we are here. So I think the magnetic field imaging, if I'm right, I'm having the just general knowledge of it. So it's not widely explored in semiconductor industry. If that is the case, this is one of the aspects, because what interesting I found is a lot of physics happens to, we are building the capability as well as there is some challenge, means most of the like X-ray and FTEM and all, it's a data is heavy, whereas magnetic field image data is light. Okay, some instant the computational setup also, we need a low-end computation. So in that scenario also we can think. Also the drawback of magnetic imaging is you have to get the some visible clarity. So you can have a like a hybrid approach. Use magnetic, say for example defect, you go to the macroscopy where the defect lies. So but if you scan any X-ray or anything, it is very large. So you have to be end to end if you want to scan. So use that to reach that point, macroscopic. And then if you want to pinpoint where the defect lies, then you can tune to any optical or any other X-ray setup to fine tune the specific defect point. That's why I feel like that's one of the multi-source scanning can be used, right? So anyway, this some of the additional points I'll try to discuss post breakout session, how we can induce and see what are the missing part in as some of the industries are here. So I think you can correct me some of the ways which are the microscope which is there or not there, how we can leverage it and all. So after the breakouts, during the breakout session, I'll collect some of this information and we try to discuss more on it. Okay, so I'll again revisit this post breakout session. And this is one thing which I'm planning the breakout session. Okay, that's the end of my talk. Just I want to highlight is so we have 3 groups. We can form 3 groups, and the topic I have highlighted here. These are the breakout session chairs. We can take initiative to collect the information. At the end of the breakout session, the one of you from each group can come and present it. Yeah, thank you. So, Kedar, you have anything to highlight?
Okay, thank you. I'll just take a minute or two. Thank you for the wonderful talks. I think I just wanted to reinforce that, as Professor Zhang mentioned this morning, this is leading up to an AI for Science Grand Challenge initiative from NRF side. So it's really up to the domain experts here collaborating with the AI folks to come up with vision statements that are solvable only through AI. We're really looking for fundamental challenges. It's not so much like you improve efficiency to 20% in defect detection, something like that. I don't need, oh, no. Okay, we have it here, so I'll just show you this one. Okay, so essentially we're looking for transformative advances in your field, right? And data sets are either available or to be curated. So we are really, I think NRF in a way is agnostic to this. Please think about how do you define some key challenge in the space that's perhaps not accessible through an IFPP or through some applied grant, but can be addressed as a fundamental challenge, like physics-based modeling to generate data, but then augmented through AI to solve some fundamental challenge. That's really what we're looking for, right? So, and remember the theme is manufacturing, so it's not just one particular device. Do think about the manufacturing aspect over here, and also put your resources inside. So, all I wanted to say is during your breakout sessions, as Senthil and Xiaoli have done, please discuss with the teammates and come up with grand challenges that can be solved through AI and data. And hopefully it'll be encompassed in the white paper that we will then collect from Senthil and Xiaoli by the end of this month. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, so I think divide the breakout session into 3 groups. I think we can focus something this row, group 1, 2, 3, or in case if you are interested in any topic, you can form the group. So the group 1 will be on semiconductor manufacturing process with digital twin simulators and DOE related. Mainly means this is led by Jive and Ashish. So you can come over to group 1 to form here for the discussion. And the group 2 is on the AI-enabled yield estimation. So Rajdeep and Nagarajan is leading this group. So I asked this in this group 2 over here. And the final is on the group 3, led by Xuan, Apu, and Zoe. So it's on AI-guided semiconductor failure analysis with sensor analytics and visual inspection. So I think group 3 can form here. Yeah.
I think you can rearrange a little bit the chair and the table. This person breakout, the person chair is actually for facilitator, right? You facilitate the discussion. It's not really leader. You are the really contributor.
Yeah, I think from our side, mostly everyone wants to see is like how simulation or digital thing can be integrated into this optimization. The second thing that mostly everyone thinks like this in experiment data is a noisy environment. So how we can have like a base semicon model or a base foundation semi model, and then it can be used in low noisy environments. The third thing is like how we can have like a human expert level or physics-based simulation, physics-based models also integrated into the AI model, and then use it for the design of the studies. Then there is like a generative designs, which can actually Gen AI approaches, and then how we can integrate that with the vision.
And finally, some of the points is like, we can have like a black box of models, like a surrogate models, and how we can integrate into like a white box or a physics-based models. So these are the main key areas that we have.
Is there anything on the fundamentals of all this algorithm part is mainly in the domain part is on the noisy data? Thank you. Thank you. Group 2. Rashdeep and
Hi. Thank you. So we have collected some points. I would like to shed light on that. We are focusing on yield optimization. So this optimization problem is multi-objective and multimodal in nature. And the challenge is in real life when we talk about process optimization, during the manufacturing process involves many constraints. So I think my colleagues will shed more light on that. Due to this constraint, it becomes challenging. And the challenge is to have high yield with low cost. Okay, so we have jotted down these points. So we want to have high yield with low cost. And the problem is not only high yield, we want to have more reliability as well. So means we want stable solutions. We want that the yield doesn't fluctuate too much. Okay, so along with that, we are thinking to propose forward modeling because during a process when we try to optimize, we want to have a better forward model that can see future far better. So that means we want to improve the estimation accuracy. By improving the estimation accuracy, we hope that we can take better decisions much before. In traditional systems, we have to wait a lot to take the decision, and that waiting involves cost. Okay, so if we have a high accuracy prediction model, much before we can take decision, and that will improve the process, the outcome and optimization. Okay. Yes.
By imagining future, how far is far?
So yeah, that depends on the generative AI.
3 months of the, I was talking, when you say future, are you saying we want to predict the next day or after 3 months, the whole wafer fabrication?
So
Yeah, I think I was just right now our study is from WAT to yield prediction because as a fabulous company we haven't get to dig into the CE parameter. All this is not available. So I would say that once you get the WAT, it's almost wafer process is done. Right now, we stop the further process from, let's say, tell the pattern chip is something is wrong with this because we get the data and we can saving the assembly cost and follow the test cost. And the worst case, we can take one piece of wafer to do a sample study and showcase. So that is, we say full attack. But once this study can further improve into the integrated more into this test process and early like CD parameter monitor and all this cost interaction between the 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional things, we can go further into the test process like in front end. At this moment is actually wafer is done. We are using the WAT with the view, but not yet into the other even further. But I think another thing is that you can look at the way that this study from design angle, right? So you establish certain model and you feed back to the design and look at the 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional the interaction, that you can improve your design and then so that your time to market will be improved. So on this model, so I think hope that answers your question.
Thank you for the question. So with that, we want to develop a high accurate forward model, but there also lies some challenges with that because we may have low data. So for better forward model, we need more data. but we may have limited data, and also we may have different segments of data, and different segments of data will have different distributions. So there is a distribution shift in the data, and also with time there will be drift. So all these things we expect the forward model will address. And with that, I think I will give the mic to Professor.
Yeah, so we just have a summary of 3 challenges that we've identified based on what Rashid just mentioned. So the first one is to be able to model the impact of the wafer acceptance test parameters on the final product yield, which is currently such a model doesn't really exist. And it's not easy to do it because it's across the whole value chain from the wafer process all the way to the product yield. So this model has to be well trained, and if it is well trained and validated, it could be used for inverse design and optimization, and further as a result of that, we can reduce the test cost, which is a significant financial expense in especially for fabless companies. So this is one challenge. The second challenge is that the data is highly segmented across different parts of the whole value chain. So as Raghavan just mentioned, they don't have access to the foundries, CD parameters and so on. So what they get is the VAT parameters, and they've got to work with what they have. And if the data is segmented across the whole value chain, it makes it difficult for us to really optimize the yield across the whole value chain, because there could be a bottleneck that they don't have access to, which fabless companies cannot improve upon because of that bottleneck. So the data is very fragmented, and there needs to be a platform to enable more sharing of data, and some kind of platform to be able to make sense of all the data across the whole value chain. In spite of there being a lot of confidentiality, there must be some way that federated learning or whatever it is, there needs to be some way to kind of for everybody to be able to make use of the data across the value chain. And the last one is that foundries generally look at one process shift as one particular target they need to achieve, but there could be multiple processes shifting collectively, and the correlation of these shifts can also impact the yield quite a lot. So there needs to be a more, the models that we build for yield prediction have to account for correlation between multiple process parameters, which might not be looked at by each process person per se. So we need to account for these correlations as well. So that is summary of current challenges in this particular video. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to group 3. So from the domain, I think one of the participants wants to share, followed by the.
My name is Chen from Rayas. I want to share on behalf of my team. So our team discussed about that the pair analysis, how the AI going to help, what are the challenges. The first challenge, I'm going to discuss more than 4 challenges. So we are going to share 4 challenges that we identify as the more critical. The first challenge, how the accurate the AI going to predict the model. Because now that every technology is going for the meter scale is smaller. So the AI model accurate is more challenged to predict the AI. So we need also see that the AI model we need to generate for each technologies trend changes. So the how accurate still we need to be addressed. The second challenge is the data privacy issue. So because we are using the different knowledge domain, and also each design phase, maybe the design house not share to the information to the fabrication house. The fabrication house may not be changed the knowledge base to the assembly house. So each knowledge domain need to be need for AI to make a domain. So also the AI need to build the domain knowledge base, the different disciplines like chemical base, mechanical base, and also is electrical base. That's why the experts need to be joined together to make AI algorithm for the mainly for the failure analysis platform. So other 2 points is shared by my.
Okay, for the last first point, I think we think it would be great to have an AI framework to automatically detect defect localization based on 3D image. It's quite challenging because companies may have different
manufacturing and scanning techniques, so that the data distribution is changing all the time. So we think improving generalization of AI models is quite important for these applications. So one potential AI solution is transfer learning, which can transfer common knowledge between different materials or devices. And for the last point, we also want to show the importance of reducing the DOE time. So one potential solution is inverse model to predict the designs from signal images. Currently, there's no model yet. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think just to summarize this entire workshop, let me brief the final part of it. So I think we got very valuable comments on some of the aspects. Appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge. I think the next step for this will be we collect all the information, whatever we gather from you all. We try to draft a white paper and pass it to NRF. And then NRF will decide the further on grand challenge what they are planning, because there are a couple of workshops going on. They are allowed to choose whichever they are finding interesting. Hopefully this whatever we gather, we put in the white paper and send them. It should be good enough. And so I got very some of the points which we gathered looks from, especially I want to summarize like the noisy. Yeah, the real setup, we have some noisy setup, noisy data, which is always a challenging. Also with the limited data is one more issue, and where Gen AI can be adapted for synthesizing it is one. And also on the this from the group 2 point of it is on the yield optimization, mainly on the multi-objective is always a challenging because of very optimal solution. It's difficult to select which one. It's always we leave it to the decision maker. And also the 3 challenges which has been highlighted on the impact of wafer test acceptance and data is highly segmented, and which can be another challenge. And finally on the shift and correlation can impact also. And these are the points from on the yield estimation side. And the third group on the failure analysis is one of the also equal challenge, which we need, because we get the prediction. How accurate prediction is always a questionable. So can there be a better way of addressing such issues? The where AI can be improvised, the accuracy, and also another important part, which from morning some of the industry partners also were sharing, the data privacy, because sharing of the data, how because most companies, they won't be easy to share all the data. So how the other aspect of data privacy issues could be useful to resolve it, as well as the domain knowledge is also critical in some of the scenarios. Like we get the prediction, AI throws the output. It's always valuable to know some human factor also, like morning the professor here was mentioning on the human factor, one of the papers which he was highlighting. And all these are the important, also the transfer learning, which we got both response. Some scenario may work, some scenario didn't work also. So we need to see the common things which can be transferable instead of the entire knowledge can be transferable. So I think this couple of points which needed to be, thanks for highlighting some of these points. And I just try to, based on the slides which I try to accumulate main part on the future direction, which is based on my view, is the way of intelligently adapting the scanning techniques, because we cannot rely on one source. Can we rely on multiple sources to see? What I example is the failure analysis use magnetic field to go because it's a light, the point, and use some other optical or some other sensor. So how we can think on that line, and embedding physics law, which is also a fundamental aspect in this NRF they are looking for. What is the fundamentals we are trying to address? So this is also useful because we always think on Gen AI and all to create magic. So with bringing some physics constraint can be improvised where the Gen AI can capture the distribution well. So I think that's one more thing which I want to highlight, embedding physics law in Gen AI or any AI model. And learning with less microscopy images also is critical because most AI model, we need a lot of data. Sridhar, you have anything?
That point, embedding physics law.
Yeah.
We have to add highly efficient circuit.
Okay.
So because embedding physics as much as possible is great, but the thing is these are computationally very expensive.
Yeah. So combining, have somewhat bringing both into the, that's a good point. And learning with less data, I think a couple of, we have one project which is led by CS here. So where with less data, how we can adopt the model, which is also very critical. So I think which can also be thought one of the important part, and because experimental data is very time consuming. So how we can compensate, either augmenting is one, or learning the model itself can adapt with less is another way. And also moving on the sustainable, because Gen AI is also, we need a lot of resource computation. In some instance, the sustainability is also questionable. So sustainable AI can also be thought, suppose you train one model, how the model can adapt efficiently, either by data, with the limited data is one. And the resource, you don't need to have a huge GPU setup and all. In those scenarios, how the resource can be efficiently adapted. There's one more thing which can be thought seriously, and also the hybrid approach, which can be the combination of both data as well as resource, how we can optimally use it. I think these are all the points which I want to highlight. So, sir, Xiaoli, you have to add anything or?
No, I think it's a lunch time. But in lunch, during the lunch, we can have a more discussion, interaction. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. Yeah, finally, I want to end up one thing. Okay. So all this one fun joke I always hear, like there was a big factory with a high-end the manufacturing of some good cleaning clothes and all. So, and there was one person wanted to visit that place. Why this factory is so popular and all. So he went inside and he found all the workers wearing not a good clothes, not in a good shape. So, and he asked the manager, how come all are so popular factory, how this is this issue kind of issues. He says we supply but we never apply. So all our knowledge, whatever we supplied, we think how we can apply. That's what I want to end up with. Yeah, thank you very much.